BC and beyond. What could be done to get it back? Plus,
just need to be positive and work together.
Trying to save horses and people. More on the efforts to solve a problem in Pemberton. And
anxieties continue to permeate here.
Ahead of a CBC News town hall on extortion in Surrey, we'll take you through the cases and concerns.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Canada has lost its measles elimination status as cases have persisted across the country for over 12 months. Here in BC, a number of infections were recently reported in the Northern Health Authority. As Amelia John reports, while it is highly infectious, it is preventable.
Health Canada says the country has lost its measles elimination status. The agency says the Pan American Health Organization reviewed recent data confirming the sustained transmission of the same measles virus strain in Canada for more than 1 year. Since last fall, an outbreak has spread to several provinces, including BC. 337 cases have been confirmed in BC this year, with 9 active cases in the most recent reporting week, mostly in northern BC.
The outbreak has peaked a few months ago, and it's more or less on its way out. And we have yet to see exactly when it's completely over, but we're getting closer, that's for sure.
Health Canada says while transmission has slowed, cases are continuing primarily in under-vaccinated communities. It's an issue on the minds of many, as the virus can be prevented through vaccinations.
Get vaccinated.
Yeah, get vaccinated.
Pretty simple.
Who wants to be sick, right?
During COVID, I thought that there were some things that I found out that made me skeptical about some of the advice that I had heard before.
I mean, it's good to be willing to question some of these things, but at the very least, I think we should be cautious and it should be a bit more informed.
Infectious disease specialists say the loss of the elimination status is a wake-up call and can damage Canada's public health reputation.
The reasons for that we need to investigate, whether it's lack of timely availability of vaccine, whether it's people not receiving the right message, whether it's some decisions that people are making, and we need to have conversations with individuals and groups about that, but it needs to be addressed.
Canada gained its measles elimination status in the 90s following successful outreach and public health campaigns. Experts say it's possible to regain that status, but vaccination numbers need to increase, and the current outbreak has to be interrupted for at least 12 months. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
More outbreaks of avian flu in the Fraser Valley have led to more restricted areas. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has divided parts of the valley into 2 primary control zones based on their health status and the density of poultry. Take a look. Category 1 is the most severe. That includes Abbotsford and Chilliwack. Products from these areas can only move within or into zones under the same category. They cannot move into other parts of the provinces labeled as Category 2 or lower, as you see most of the rest of the Lower Mainland. Richmond and Langley are also under investigation for avian flu, but at that lower Category 2. There are 19 active outbreaks in the Lower Mainland right now. A dangerous situation is escalating in Pemberton as the days get shorter and visibility is reduced. A handful of horses have been hit by vehicles on the Sea to Sky Highway. Alana Kelly has more on those trying to find a solution.
At any given moment, this is what drivers are experiencing, coming face to face with a herd of horses.
It's just heartbreaking hearing about these horses getting taken out.
In the last 7 weeks, multiple horses have been struck by vehicles on this section of the Sea to Sky Highway in Pemberton. At least 3 have been killed. The animals are free roaming, not contained to one property or area.
Just a few days ago, a fowl was killed on the highway. And about a month before that, another 2 or 3 were taken out.
RCMP says many of the horses in the herd are privately owned by one person. The chief of Lillooet Nation says they are working with them to find a solution.
We left it to the family to try and take care of the animals, and I'm saying that not just horses, but there's other livestock and things that need to be tended to, and the whole thing is about safety, traffic and safety and the care for animals. So I'm looking forward to working together and finding a solution.
One farmer has started putting up a fence blocking off a large area of his land beside the highway. He says the horses have damaged his hay crop for years.
I feel the same frustration I felt for the last 14 years.
The mayor of Pemberton has been asking for the province's help for more than a decade.
It's not ours to manage. We can't do it. We don't have the resources or the authority.
The BC Transportation Ministry says it is the responsibility of landowners to ensure their livestock are properly contained on their property and don't go onto public roads, adding that signs were installed to warn drivers.
Putting up signs along the road indicating that there may be horses in the area is an indication that the government knew.
An animal rights lawyer says the Transportation Ministry could be liable.
The evidence is already crystal clear that injuries are very likely to happen. And in my view, when it comes to the law of negligence, if the government continues to not act quickly enough, they can definitely be on the hook.
WWII Nation members spent all Sunday finding the horses and moving them to a secure area on reserve land to keep the animals and people safe.
I don't own these horses. As WWII, we care. There are efforts in place, by many people who care. And there's some very amazing people from Pemberton who care too. We just need to be positive and work together.
The chief hopes the horses stay in that secured area while they try to find a solution. Elena Kelly, CBC News, Pemberton.
Federal officials say another humpback whale has been found dead off Vancouver Island. Claire Palmer has more now on the push for awareness.
It's been a return that's caused great excitement. More and more whales are appearing in the Salish Sea. But that return is also seeing more human impacts. 2 humpback deaths in the last 2 weeks. The most recent this past weekend, a whale first spotted back in 2004, Polyphemus. And while the cause of his death is not yet known, it has researchers worried.
While their deaths are absolutely tragic, we do not want them to be in vain.
Birdsall says that while we don't know if Polyphemus died due to humans, the high-profile whale deaths have been an opportunity to teach more about being whale-aware. MERS is providing a free course aimed at educating people on how to safely be in whale waters to prevent further injuries and deaths.
Really battling those misconceptions and making sure boaters are learning more about when and where humpback whales can be found, learning more about things we can do to reduce our impact on these animals and reduce the chances of ship strikes is a really important step.
Christy McMillan is a researcher with the DFO and says that while the cause of Polyphemus's death is not yet known, it's an opportunity to learn more about whales.
A lot of times whales will die, sink to the bottom of the ocean. We'll never know how they died.
She adds that as whales return in larger numbers to the Salish Sea, to expect more human whale incidents.
As there's more overlap with human activity, it really means that we've sort of got to catch up on our knowledge and know that the whales are in the area so we can do what we can to prevent these deaths.
It's illegal to disturb or approach marine mammals in Canada. Any operator of a vessel or fishing gear involved in accidental contact with a marine mammal is required to notify DFO. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
Earlier this year, dozens of prominent white supremacists and fascists attended a neo-Nazi event in Vancouver. The CBC's visual investigation team obtained video from that event via the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which tracks hate groups. They spent months tracing the names and faces of those at the event, and it showed a disturbing trend. Eric Cito has more.
This was organized by a group called the Exiles of the Golden Age, and you've probably never heard of it before, but they're into folkish pagan traditions, really kind of influenced by Germanic, Nordic traditions, but there's also a lot of imagery and literature where they ode to, white supremacists and neo-Nazi kind of literature. So pictures of swastikas, references to authors who idolize Adolf Hitler. So that's kind of the subtext of a little bit of what they do. But they're also into mixed martial arts. And so this year's conference was about bringing together disciplined groups of men to basically, rebuild the world amongst the coming wreckage, essentially. And the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which provided us this video, took notice, and they wanted to figure out where this was. It was at a secret location, and they figured out where it was, and they sent a photographer there, and they documented people going in and out of there amongst the more than 50 people. Well-known neo-Nazis, white supremacist groups like Second Sons, and even active clubs.
We knew that this event, the way it was marketed, the places it was marketed, We knew that very specifically this is a neo-Nazi event. The reason that we've been warning about the size and the threat of the white nationalist movement, they have managed to put aside a lot of their differences. They have managed to sort of figure out a unified and coherent strategy. And they are successfully recruiting large numbers of people doing it.
And so there were white supremacists, white nationalist groups, and some that people just wouldn't expect to be in attendance?
It was unexpected, right? Yeah. We found that there were mixed martial arts professionals, coaches, trainers, gym owners at this event. And just want to give you some context. A few months ago, we first reported on these fascist fight clubs popping up around the country, training for this looming race war that was happening. And we focused on the Ontario groups there. And at that time, we tracked them basically to public parks and private gyms where they were training. The gym owners in that story said they had no idea what was going on. They had no idea, no affiliation with this type of movement. But fast forward 3 months later, flip that on its head, you're seeing MMA professionals, gym owners attending this event, whether they were attendees or organizers or speakers, they were there. And so we thought that was interesting. We brought all of our findings to experts that study extremism. We wondered, what's this overlap with white supremacy and mixed martial arts? And they said, this is proof that this is a growing trend, that this is actually a growing problem.
And so what did they say when you reached out to the gym owners and the coaches?
Yeah, we reached out to everyone we named in the story. Yeah. Some of them hung up on us. Yeah. And some of them did not respond to our emails or calls. But we managed to speak to a few people. And one of those people was a fellow named Carl Stornis-Bliss. Now, Stornis-Bliss he runs a strength company as a children's coach at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu place in Mission, BC, which is east of Vancouver. And we contacted him, we documented him there. But when we actually spoke to him on the phone, he said, he didn't know what this event was about. I wasn't there. I wasn't there in Vancouver in July when this happened at the Scottish Cultural Centre in Vancouver. And you're like, well, that's not right, because the video we have shows you with tattoo that matches who you are. It's and also tattoo of the T-shirt he also wore for the conference on those social media posts. And in those social media posts, we also found that he had a Totenkopf. So it's like the death mask used by the Nazi SS tattooed on his stomach. He had bike helmets that had Nazi imagery there. So it was kind of interesting, his affiliations and his beliefs there. So he denied that. He said he wasn't there. So we reached out to the gym where he worked out of. It's called Mission BJJ. It's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu place. Talked to the owner there. He said he was blown away by the revelations and he had no idea about his affiliations.
Led to believe this was a jiu-jitsu seminar. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because my gym has so many diverse backgrounds of Indians, Filipinos, and if I thought that we had a white supremacist there, that would... It actually blows my mind, to be honest. But
is he still going to be at your gym, or is he done with your gym?
No, I've told him to leave the gym.
So just to know, we wanted to get a reaction or comment from the City of Vancouver. We spoke to City Councilor Rebecca Bly. Said she was alarmed by our findings. She says that hate groups, extremist groups are not welcome in Vancouver. The Scottish Cultural Centre, where this event was held in Vancouver, they said they had no idea that this was happening at their event. They said it was supposed to be a book launch. So in light of our revelations, they're going to be reviewing their booking policies.
Darius Manava here with a first glance at the weather and some more moisture on the way.
That's right. We've had a bit of a drizzle today. I mean, we got some heavy rain last night here across southwestern BC, turned into a drizzle by this morning for the most part, but more is on the way after a bit of a calm break through tomorrow. So let's zoom into southwest BC. We'll look at the rest of the province later in the show, but for now, there's those showers that came to the west, are coming to the west coast of the island tonight. Let's roll this forward. It moves up towards the North Island through the day tomorrow. Then it moves off onto the north and central coast. Meanwhile, a brief break for most places tomorrow into Wednesday, but then more precipitation arrives. We see those showers spread across southwest BC, and then some heavier precipitation does start to arrive, especially overnight Wednesday into Thursday and Thursday morning for the lower mainland, especially up on the North Shore.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Extortion in Surrey. How we got here and what is being done ahead of a CBC News town hall in Surrey. That's next. Police in Surrey now say a weekend shooting is connected to an extortion attempt. Several shots were fired at a home near 32nd Avenue and 168th Street on Saturday. Investigators say a man working on the home suffered non-life-threatening injuries after he was hit by debris or bullet fragments. No one has been arrested yet. Now, Surrey police say so far it's been investigating 94 extortion-related incidents in that city, nearly half involving gunfire. The CBC's Saurabh Sandhu has covered the cases extensively over the past 2 years and explains how we got here.
This is the Pyle Centre, one of Surrey's busiest business complexes. There's food shops, clothing stores, and plenty of jewelers. It's also where gunshots were reportedly fired at a business in the early hours of November 23, 2023. Later that day, police issued a public warning, urging businesses to beware of extortionists. The business that was first targeted, a jeweler, has long since closed up shop, but anxieties continue to permeate here. Many business owners we have spoken with are reluctant to go on camera, fearing they could be next. So what led us here? Let's take a look. In January 2024, Vedic Hindu Cultural Society, a Surrey-based not-for-profit, organized a public forum. Concerned over reports of extortion calls received by businesses and residents in the city. They said callers were making threats demanding financial payments and creating an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. At the forum, public officials made an impassioned plea to the victims to report the extortions to the police.
Please do not pay them.
In July of that year, Canadian Trucking Association of BC held another public forum in Surrey, shedding light on how South Asian trucking businesses were being targeted. At the forum, owners of two BC-based trucking companies publicly admitted that they received threatening phone calls demanding money.
We are staying most at home, and we have to wake up in the middle of the night and look around everything.
Just a few weeks later, this violent attack at the Abbotsford home of the other businessman, Jas Arora, followed by a phone call with a chilling message.
He goes, see what we did for you, to you? And now you watch. You have 3 days. Give us 3 days. We will kill you.
Arora says the caller told him the demand for money was coming from Lawrence Bishnoi, a man alleged to be running a number of criminal enterprises in India that have spread into North America in recent years. His business model is believed to be demanding payments from prominent South Asian community members, including high-profile personalities in the entertainment business. In September 2024, some Indian media reported his gang took responsibility for this shooting in Victoria, targeted at the home of Punjabi singer AP Dhillon. This video, which appears to be filmed by the attacker, shows two cars burning in the driveway as shots are fired at the house. A month later, RCMP Commissioner Mike Duham announced the force had evidence linking the extortions in Canada to 6 Indian diplomats. At the same news conference, Assistant Commissioner Bridget Gouin said investigators believe the Bishnoi gang is connected to the agents of the Government of India. After RCMP's press conference in October, some extortion victims that CBC News had spoken to previously said they felt the threat of extortion had receded and their lives appeared to be returning to normalcy. But that reprieve was short-lived as several cases of extortions in BC came to light by spring of 2025.
That is part one of the extortion timeline. Tune in for part 2 on Tuesday. And for more on this extortion crisis, join us in Surrey on Thursday, November 13th for a community town hall. It's free to attend. You'll hear about the impacts and solutions being offered. We recommend you reserve a seat at cbc.ca/BC Community. Spectacular light dancing off the Rocky Mountains near Cranbrook. Not a leaf left on the trees, so we are into late fall. If there's any snow in the forecast for the mountains, Darius will tell us in his BC-wide forecast coming up. Prime Minister Mark Carney is outselling his government's Buy Canadian policy. It's meant to ensure federal dollars are spent on domestic materials and services, a move to make the economy more independent. But as Olivia Stefanovich reports, it could also come with a cost.
With the trade war dragging on, the Prime Minister is making his next move.
Now, we're going to build. But it's not just about what we build, it's also how we build.
Launching a new form of protectionism.
We will build Canadian by becoming our own best customer.
It's called the Buy Canadian policy, mandating all federal agencies and crown corporations to select Canadian suppliers by default.
It's not going to resolve the crisis that we're in, but it sure is going to be helpful.
The steel industry is applauding the move after being hit with 50% tariffs from the White House.
It's a devastating situation, so this, along with other things, really helps to stabilize the industry, and that's what we're all working towards.
But industries are also looking for provinces and territories to match the policy.
We do welcome a focus on building and buying more goods right here from Canada.
Under the directive, when domestic suppliers are not available, purchases will still need some Canadian content or be sourced from trusted partners if they get ministerial approval.
Every time you add a policy on the current or future project, that would kind of put a hurdle in the normal process.
Ottawa is setting aside $200 million from the federal budget for the policy. The construction industry warns it could drive up the cost to build.
So we'll see the detail, but that's something that we just need to be aware. When you add a policy like this, it might have a project may cause delay, cost increase, and maybe that's going to have an impact on how much project you can go.
The Prime Minister hasn't yet revealed the policy's regulations, but Mark Carney says they will be applied to the federal government's push to build affordable homes and major projects, with more to be announced on Thursday. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The longest U.S. government shutdown in history could soon come to an end after 8 Democrats broke ranks yesterday to move forward a Senate deal to reopen the government. Just a short time ago, the Senate passed a bill to do just that. It will now go to the House of Representatives. But as Katie Nicholson reports, the chaos from the shutdown continues.
At American airports, tens of thousands of cancellations and delays continue amid air traffic staffing issues as federal employees go more than a month without pay. But an end is in sight.
Today, the Senate voted to start reopening the government.
After 8 senators brokered a deal with Republicans.
We applaud the 7 Senate Democrats and 1 independent senator who did the right thing. They decided to put principle over their personal politics.
The move? Deeply divisive among Democrats who had been holding out to extend health care credits that are due to expire. All they are guaranteed in the deal is a Senate vote on a health care bill before the second week of December.
It doesn't change the core problem here, which is we need to decisively address the Republican health care crisis.
The deal's path through both chambers is still just beginning. And so for now, the shutdown grinds on, prompting a Delta Airlines pilot to soothe rattled travelers.
I know we probably have quite a few nervous flyers today. It is perfectly understandable. I want to emphasize this aircraft does not move a single inch unless both my co-captain Michael and myself are absolutely certain it's safe to do so.
While the U.S. president Monday scolded air traffic controllers on social media, telling them they must get back to work now. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked, and that he would recommend a bonus of $10,000 for those who didn't take any time off. This as their association head defended their absenteeism and compounded stress working without pay for 41 days.
The added stress leads to fatigue. The fatigue has led to the erosion of safety and the increased risk every day that this shutdown drags on.
A shutdown that may soon end, but take weeks, possibly months, for those affected to shake off. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to block accountability for the push to overturn the results of the 2020 election. He's now pardoning dozens of political allies. Katie Simpson reports on the announcement made with the words, "No MAGA left behind."
President Donald Trump is rewarding his loyal allies with some help from the Department of Justice. On social media, an official post, dozens of people getting pardons in connection to alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The president says this ends a grave national injustice and continues the process of national reconciliation. No MAGA left behind, says Trump's pardon attorney. In the lead up to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, there were widespread attempts to keep Trump in power. Efforts that were as elaborate as they were far-fetched.
The company counting our vote, with control over our vote, is owned by two Venezuelans.
Rudy Giuliani, who served as Trump's lawyer, is being pardoned, along with Mark Meadows, Trump's then chief of staff.
Okay.
The president already granted clemency to 1,500 people charged in connection to the Capitol riot.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages.
Trump has long tried to rewrite the events of 2020, and all these years later, he still routinely makes false claims the election was stolen from him.
This would have never happened if the election weren't rigged. Well, I know how it happened, a rigged election. That's how it happened. The Democrats are good at a few things, cheating on elections.
These latest pardons are part of a troubling trend, according to this American law professor.
President Trump has treated the Justice Department as his personal law firm in a way that no prior president of either party has done.
The pardons only apply to federal crimes and are seen as symbolic and preemptive, since no one on the list has been charged with a federal offense. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
A car explosion has killed at least 8 people and wounded 19 more in India's capital. It happened near one of New Delhi's most recognizable historic monuments, one that attracts thousands of tourists every day. More now from Salima Shivji.
We don't know a lot yet about what exactly led to this explosion near Delhi's Red Fort, a historic landmark and tourist attraction. Investigators are on the scene, forensic experts as well, teams with India's National Security Guard and National Investigation Agency, all of them combing through charred auto parts to try to find some clues to piece together what exactly happened. What we do know is that the blast occurred right before 7 in the evening, a very busy time in a crowded area, very close to Old Delhi's market bazaars. According to Delhi's police commissioner, a slow-moving vehicle approached a red light, stopped, and then that vehicle exploded. The commissioner says there were passengers aboard the vehicle, and he does also say that several cars nearby, at least 6, exploded as a result of that initial explosion. As ambulances and fire trucks rushed to the scene to get to those injured. According to local media outlets, many of the casualties were dead before they even reached hospital. Several others are very seriously injured. Some eyewitnesses reported hearing the loudest explosion they had ever heard in their lives. One man, a local shopkeeper, said he was knocked down 3 times and he thought he was going to die as well. India's Home Affairs Minister Amit Shah visited the site of the explosion as well as the hospital where many of the injured are being treated. He says there will be a thorough investigation and no possibility is being ruled out at this time. He says all options will be investigated immediately, and once the results are known, they will be made public. But still, there are a lot of questions here tonight as the country is grappling with this explosion. Country very much on edge because of this. This is a country that has been scarred in the past by attacks and bombings in urban areas. There was a string of them in the mid-2000s, blamed on militant groups. So this is a country on edge already. Delhi and Mumbai, big cities, are on high alert, as well as several neighboring states to the capital and border areas as well. And security is being ramped up around religious sites in parts of the country as this investigation continues. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Dehradun, India.
Now, a search for her great uncle who never came home from the Second World War became a reminder of how remembrance lives on. A very personal story from Johanna Wagstaff. Next. This year's UN Climate Summit has kicked off in Brazil. Organizers of COP30 are urging countries to commit to more ambitious climate action plans to advance the Paris Agreement goals. Susan Ormiston has the latest from Belém.
The delegates here very aware that this is a very politically difficult time for climate change, with a climate denier in the White House, amongst other economic pressures and attention on wars. So at the official opening of COP30 this morning, we heard from the Brazilian president talking about misinformation about climate change.
Now it's the moment to impose a new defeat to the denialists. Without the Paris Agreement, the world would suffer with a catastrophic warming up of almost 5 degrees till the end of this century. So we're moving to the right direction, but at the wrong speed.
We also heard a lot about what is working, and that is renewable energy. Many countries seeing a surge in the use of renewables, and that's sort of one of the more positive messages coming out of COP30.
This is the growth story of the 21st century, the economic transformation of our age. Those opting out or taking baby steps face stagnation and higher prices, while other economies surge ahead.
Being in an Amazonian city does have a different effect than Dubai or Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in the past few years. People are getting a sense of the transition for countries and areas that are trying to bring themselves up economically, that are underdeveloped in many ways. We saw that Belém was being challenged to have enough spaces for people to sleep. Hotel rooms couldn't fill everything. A lot of people have rented out their condos, and 2 cruise ships are in the river not too far from here, and people are actually staying on those cruise ships for the conference. This city is at the apex of the Amazon waterway system, not on the actual river, but some of its tributaries. And a boat traveled all the way for 25 days from Ecuador and the Andes to Belém, bringing a group of indigenous leaders. They want a greater voice in what happens in their territories, and they're going to come and have their impact here on COP30 as well. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Belém, Brazil.
The weather update is brought to you by BC Cancer Foundation. Give today to bring more progress and possibilities to patients and their families. Your donation changes everything.
Darius Madavi is here with the BC-wide weather forecast, but we have to go slightly east because something is happening perhaps more dramatic?
That's right. A big story in eastern Canada. Some very heavy snowfall throughout Ontario, especially southern Ontario. This is the earliest major snowfall of this magnitude in half a century in some places, including my hometown of Hamilton. Here's what that looks like over that 24-hour period. Now, you can see some of that snow melting away because less snow started falling in that later part, but let's just zoom in here and look at some of the big numbers. Hamilton, 16 centimeters of snowfall just on Sunday, almost 10 centimeters in Toronto and Trenton, which is just north of Lake Ontario, and 12 centimeters in Ottawa. So some very heavy snowfall. You can see little pockets of even heavier snow in some areas. These are just the numbers from official Environment Canada stations, volunteer stations, numbers that Environment Canada cited, anywhere from 8 to 15 centimeters across much of Ontario, and still a few snow squalls coming. So lake effect snow, cold air blowing over those warm lakes, dropping that moisture on the other side. 5 to 10 centimeters of snow an hour in some of those areas, with a small area, Lambton County, eastern section, that's too much detail, but almost 50 centimeters of snow over the few days coming in that area. 50 centimeters. Heavy rain also then starting to make its way up through the Maritimes, so some weather warnings and wind warnings there as well throughout Atlantic Canada. Now, let's turn our attention here in BC. We have a low pressure system developing off the coast of southwest BC that's going to move inland as we get into Thursday. That means some strong gusty winds overnight Wednesday into Thursday and some heavier precipitation. A lot of that falling as snow in the more northern areas and, of course, for the mountains. Freezing levels coming down over the next couple of days, so more places in the interior seeing that snow rather than rain at those lower elevations. But as we watch this roll in, you see a bit of a reprieve tomorrow, plenty of sunshine, especially in the interior. Then that next wave of rain arrives, and it very quickly breaks into the interior as well. Again, expect a fair amount of snow, expect heavy rain at times in southwestern BC as well as up the coast. This is just more of what we've already seen. We saw records, daily records for wind gusts and rainfall and snowfall and high temperatures yesterday, and more high temperature records today. So expect more dramatic weather. But first, brief reprieve tomorrow. Even a little bit of sunshine here in Vancouver, but maybe a drizzle in the morning. And then the rain arrives properly as we get into midweek.
Properly indeed. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
A family's wartime loss is sometimes measured in decades. For the loved ones of the CBC's Johanna Wagstaff, it was both distant, the Second World War, and remote, Malta. But for her entire family, sorting out a mystery was something they had to do.
Earlier this fall, I boarded a flight bound for a small island in the Mediterranean. Most people don't think of Malta when they think of the Second World War, but for my family, it's where one of our stories ends and begins again. 1940. Italy had just joined the Axis powers. Everyone needs oil, and the Allies need a base to guard the east. Enter Malta. What began with a few planes and anti-aircraft guns soon became a fortress, bombed more than any other Allied post of the war. By 1943, Malta was packed with bunkers, airfields, and Allied troops, including an Australian Wellington bomber unit with more than 90 Canadians. Malta played a crucial role in the Second World War, but for our family, it's always been personal. My great-uncle Michael's story ended here.
Because he was doing flying against Sicily and
Corsica. My dad, Adam Wagstaff, and my sister Kate have spent years piecing together his final chapter.
So how did the journey start? Well, I guess the journey started back in the 1990s when I first started researching my uncle, John Michael Wagstaff, as a project for my father.
So it became this sort of grand adventure of finding and following his footsteps.
And that's when we got the only ever photo
of him smiling.
Of him smiling, yeah. And I remember that was a moment where I was reminded, yes, he was this hero, but he was also a kid.
He was just a kid.
My great-uncle Michael was British, but he served alongside Canadians in the RAAF 458th Squadron, a melting pot of young men from across the Commonwealth who flew together in the Mediterranean.
For each Canadian who had died flying with the squadron, we suddenly began to learn more about Canada and the Second World War and the amazing training that went on in every corner of this country.
When the last known Canadian member of the squadron passed away, my dad and Kate took over as the Canadian correspondents, researching with the same vigor they brought to our uncle's story, each of the 90-plus Canadian airmen, one by one, all anchored in Malta. 80 years later, and that's where the Wagstaffs have landed, for a commemoration marking the end of the war. We're meeting the 458th family in person for the first time. Most of their fathers made it home, carrying the weight of war, but also a bond that never broke, passed down to their children.
104s, that's the Canadians, yes.
And they're all Canadians, that's their story.
We'd only ever exchanged letters, yet somehow this feels like a reunion. At the Malta Memorial, a place to remember those airmen killed in the Mediterranean theater with no known grave, a ceremony brought together representatives from across the Commonwealth.
The nephew and great-niece of Warrant Officer Michael Wagstaff.
As the only Canadians, we came armed with our crosses and read letters from the Prime Minister and Lieutenant Governors representing almost all 9 provinces where those Canadians once lived. My sister carried laminated photos of each of the 31 Canadians, a way to put faces to the names engraved in stone, many that flew alongside our British great-uncle. And then, our new 458th family stood with us when we visited Michael's grave for the first time.
Found it.
Good job. So that was Wagstaff.
It was quite emotional, actually. It wasn't until we put the photo down of him next to the grave.
Yeah, it was very special.
Seeing him here and being able to honor him in this way does put something to rest. It does close a loop that we've been chasing for so long. Our research isn't over, But I think we just realized how many more stories and how many more people were connected to my great uncle. So the research continues, but there is a sense of relief to see him here.
And this photo.
Standing in Malta, you realize how connected these stories still are, how a small crew from every corner of the Commonwealth came together over this sea. For our family, finding Michael's grave wasn't just about loss, it's about rediscovery, about remembering that the history of war isn't written in strategy or numbers, but in the lives behind each name.
As long as we keep remembering, as long as the next generation remembers, as we said before, there is a saying, you die twice. Once when you stop breathing, and the second time when the last person remembers.
On this trip, Kate and my dad uncovered new connections, new Canadians to add to their list to research and honor. Because remembrance doesn't end at the memorial. It continues every time a story is told or a name is spoken out loud. For anyone with a name in their family tree and a question mark beside it, the stories are waiting. Sometimes all it takes is a visit to make history personal again.
Small businesses are facing extortion threats and violence. Families are afraid of their safety. As a pattern of targeted crime grows throughout our communities, your voice matters. Join us on November 13th at the Surrey Arts Centre for a special CBC News Town Hall, Extortion, Communities in Fear. It's totally free, but space is limited, so reserve your spot today by heading to cbc.ca/BC Community.
Vancouver's professional women's hockey league team, the Golden Eyes, has begun its on-ice training camp sessions.
The Pacific Coliseum will be the team's home. Its management says the rink on Renfrew has received millions in upgrades over the last 6 months, including a new video board. The team also unveiled its logo at center ice.
As many of you know, the Coliseum has a rich legacy of Vancouver sports history. We are incredibly proud to honor that heritage while also helping to usher in a new era of professional women's hockey in this city. This is our home. This is where Vancouver will gather, and this is where the next generation of hockey inspiration will take flight.
The Golden Eyes will play their first game at the Coliseum against the Seattle Torrent on November 21st.
A hidden archive has surfaced beneath the battlefield of Vimy Ridge. That 1917 assault by Canadian troops is seen as both a turning point in the First World War and a key moment in forging this country's identity.
As Colin Butler reports, the chalk walls where soldiers once waited to fight are speaking again thanks to 21st century technology.
In the tunnels beneath Vimy Ridge, where Canadian soldiers once waited for battle, the last post echoes, a tribute to the soldiers who left their mark on these chalk walls.
It's like walking into a church alone, and you see these carvings on the wall that these soldiers had done, in some cases, right before they died.
These are the tunnels below Vimy Ridge, a haunting gallery of names and art carved by Canadian soldiers on the eve of battle.
There were subway tunnels through here, and they were all connected, so the supplies as well as the men are moving through this vast tunnel system.
At Vimy Ridge, Canada proved itself, a young nation finding its voice amid the thunder of war. While they waited, anxious soldiers passed the time carving and writing in the soft walls.
This is very famous.
Now, more than a century later, new messages are being uncovered thanks to 21st century technology. New handheld 3D scanners capture the carvings in color and detail.
So these guys, Beckett and Mason,
revealing more than 30 new names once lost to time.
That's just a really prime example.
Once scanned, the carvings are digitally realized, linked to the name and face of the soldier who carved them, offering a glimpse into their thoughts, often fixed on love and home.
It links the past with the present, and it gets that message across that we need to remember the people that actually served.
Their work is a race against time. The tunnels are unstable, and some have already collapsed. A Canadian was killed in 1998 while documenting the art.
The chalk that is down there, it's very, very fragile. So we have to get there now with a sense of urgency as much as we can, to record as much as we can.
A century later, these tunnels still speak, but they can't hold out forever. Teams are shoring up tunnels, planting trees to preserve the fragile chalk, fighting to ensure this history isn't swallowed by the earth. Colin Butler, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Tomorrow, CBC will present live coverage of the Remembrance Day ceremony from Victory Square in downtown Vancouver. Coverage starts at 10 a.m. and runs to 11:30. You can stream it on the CBC YouTube page and on our FAST channel.
Speaking of which, thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, YouTube, and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
And we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Good night.